Fruit trees you got to be careful with. We're trying to figure out where all of our structures are going to be on our property because we're still building out our property. And then we're going to plant trees so that the structures can help block the wind in the hopes that that will help. But I am not, I will cover up my fruit trees whenever I get fruit trees to help try to save some of the blossoms.
I was just going to ask, does anybody have fruit trees? Mine, peaches just exploded, and now I'm afraid I'm not going to get anything from them because it's too early. Is there anything I
My
can
apricots, I don't know. My apricots are always too early, so I just gave up on them.
You just don't get through it.
Well, you know, my neighbor's peach tree has exploded as well, and I think you might be okay. Peaches are pretty hardy.
I'm just surprised I literally walked outside and this gorgeous blossom. I'm
like,
We don't want them to die yet.
Be careful, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You can actually cover just
Okay.
in the evening as long as you take the cover off right away and
We can kind of see everything now.
Make sure it's not plastic, like a light cotton, even like a sheet. I've done sheets, but you really have to be careful not to. As soon as the sun comes up, take it out because then it gets too wet and cold.
Yes.
Cotton.
So we live at mile marker 361 off of 61. It's a blue house that sits back from the highway. There's a detached garage. My cute little greenhouse that just got there this year. Chicken coop, stuff like that. We're building there. My husband's getting ready to get sorry, I get distracted. My husband's going to get a shipping container next, is the next big thing, because he wants to have a telescope and stuff like that. We're kind of nerds. So I want him to get his telescope too. But we're going to put the telescope up on top of the shipping container. So we've already started discussing where are we going to put the shipping container, because then we can put our fruit orchard on the eastern side of the shipping container to block that west wind. So it'll probably be next year before I get my fruit trees. I really wanted 2 apple and 2 pear this year, though.
I bought some, one apple tree that has 4 grafts on it. And then I bought another just plain apple tree, a Honeycrisp, which I like those apples, which you don't talk to me about GMOs or any of that stuff, because I don't either. But they wintered over fine, and they're just starting to bloom out. And I'm so excited. But, like you, I know the wind is going to come. And I got to figure out how to block the wind.
Hey, I figured out how to make it all work now. Well, that took a long time. Yeah, fruit trees for me. Again, I'm very excited about it. I hope it all works out. I don't expect too much from it. Like, I'm trying not to get my hopes up with anything garden related because it's so touch and go here for me. But I do really want the apple and pear trees because those are my favorite fruits and easy to can. All right, so this is what my garden journals and research said that we should be doing at this part of the season. We are like a month and a half, 2 months away from the end of like frost damage kind of thing. So to start seeds in the ground, they're talking about peas, spinach, carrot, beet, leaf lettuce, green onion, and parsnips. My peas are doing fabulous. My spinach sprouted outside just fine. So, and my carrots, I think my carrots are coming up. Question, for those of you who have grown carrots. I can't remember. Do the carrots, when they first sprout, are their sprout leaves big and round just like other things sprout leaves? Or do they automatically look like the little carrot fuzzy thing? Okay, then I don't know what's sprouting where I planted my carrots.
You put your peas where your carrots are.
I'm pretty sure all of my peas are on the border. I didn't plant any in the middle. I planted carrots in the middle.
I mean, mine were
But
frozen.
something is sprouting there. Now, it could just be stuff left over from last year where some seeds dropped or something, and I'm going to get some surprise plants. Who knows? Whatever it is sprouting. My onions are doing good too. So those are things to start in ground. If you're starting indoors, it's time to do all of your like summer plants, your eggplants, your squashes, your cucumbers, peppers. I've started my tomatoes. They haven't sprouted yet. I've planted my tomato seeds, but they haven't sprouted yet. I have no idea what summer savory is. It was in the thing.
It's an herb.
And fennel and something called chervil. Don't know what that is either, because as I go on my garden journey, I'm going on a cooking journey. It said you can go ahead and plant asparagus and horseradish outside your roots that you buy, the little things. We don't eat asparagus in my house, so we're not going to plant asparagus. And I don't know that I would know what to do with horseradish.
Oh.
It does say time to up pot some of the things if you've already started seeds. I did some up potting yesterday. If all of my up potted plants still are thriving, then I'll bring in extras at our next meeting, because I have 9 cucumber plants so far. And I'm only going to be planting like 2 of each variety. I'm not going to be planting all of that. It would go to waste.
What does up pot mean?
So if you start in those little seed cells, you know how you can buy the trays that have like the little bitty 1 inch by 1 inch? After your seeds sprout and they start to get their true leaves, then you need to put them in a bigger pot so that they don't become root bound or anything and continue to grow.
Up pot, like
So,
okay.
yeah, so I did, I had some stuff in 1 inch cells, and then I had some in 2 by 2 inch cells. And then I transplanted them to a 4 inch pot so that they'd have more room to grow for the next few weeks. I'm hoping that'll be the last time I have to up pot them before I can put them in the ground, but you just never know with the weather out here. You're going to have to watch and see. And then some of my stuff, like my squash and cucumbers, I started them in the 4 inch pots, and I didn't expect every seed to sprout. So I put like 4 seeds in a pot. All 4 sprouted. So I had to separate all of them out because I want them all to grow. So that's what up potting is. A lot of people, if you don't want to bother with up potting, use the solo cups, because then they can stay in there. And they'll usually be fine until it's time to put them out in your garden if you do the solo cups. And all you have to do for the solo cups, you don't even have to have another tray underneath them. You can stack your solo cups so you have one with no holes in the bottom, and then the one that you can just use scissors and cut the corners a little bit so that it can drain. Stick it inside, put your soil, your seeds in there. When you water it, the extra water will go in the bottom of the cup. And you can either dump that out so that you don't like oversaturate. I don't ever dump it out because we live in the desert. Things will dry up quick anyways. So I just leave the water in there and it absorbs and evaporates on its own. And then I just water my seedlings. Usually I do every other day. Before they sprout, I water from the top because I want that top soil to be wet so that they sprout. Once they sprout, then I water from the bottom. And I usually, like I said, water every other day. I don't water more than that. My tubs that are outside, I water maybe twice a week, and I really water deep. I water until I see water coming out of the bottom. And when I was transplanting my broccoli and my bok choy yesterday, I just kind of stuck my fingers down in to see how well it was keeping moisture. And about 3.5 to 4 inches down, the soil was moist. So I think my 2 times a week is working. Like I do it about every 3 days or so. And so I think that's working for that. And I put straw over it. I know somebody in here on the first meeting said don't use straw. But every farmer I see on YouTube uses straw to mulch. So I use straw.
Well, yeah, straw.
And it's working just fine.
Straw versus hay. Hay has seeds in it.
Yeah, I don't use,
Straw does
yeah.
not.
no.
But it's kind of hard to find straw.
Yeah. Where did I get it? Cal Ranch. I think I got mine at Cal Ranch, and it was in a cube, like a rectangle thing, bagged up, and that's where I got my straw. And I originally bought it just for my chicken run because I didn't want the chickens to be in mud this winter. So I went and got a second bag for that. As far as maintenance goes, any of y'all planting in ground?
I did. I got sick of everything falling out, and my husband yelled at me for taking over the windowsill.
Do what you got to do. Do what you got to do.
My onions went outside yesterday.
Go ahead and, if you haven't been amending, you need to start amending now, just so that you can get your soil worked in. If you're going to, adding stuff to it.
Amending, fertilizer.
Yeah, adding
Whatever.
stuff to
If
it.
you're going to add anything else.
Compost,
like
whatever.
Okay.
The
Don't,
chemical
look,
that neutralizes the alkaline.
I am not an expert in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We're all just trying our best out here and throwing it up against the wall and seeing what sticks. I know that there's a YouTuber I was watching, and I believe she lives somewhere off of Stanford Road. Her channel's Designer Off Grid if you watch YouTube. She's very entertaining to me. Designer Off Grid. Now, she's not a gardening channel. She's just journaling her process of moving off grid. And she's going to do like a shed to home kind of thing, that kind of stuff. But she is planting in ground. And she's very ambitious, and I admire that a lot. She must have 16 garden beds that she's marked off. She's doing one at a time, very reasonable. But she just added like vermiculite and perlite and some like rabbit poo and stuff like that into the soil to start mixing it up. So her soil looks pretty good, and I think it would work. I've never grown in ground here. This will be my first year doing it. I've never used perlite or vermiculite as an add-in to anything. I usually just buy garden soil because I'm in containers. And so I'll probably buy some to put into the ground because it's clay, and I know it'll help aerate it a little bit. And I use mushroom compost for all of my composting and my stuff. I just prefer the mushroom compost. I don't like handling animal waste if I don't have to. It just seems gross to me. I know it's been aged and it's fine. I don't want to stick my hands in poo. And I buy gloves and I buy tools, but I'm always just using my hands. I never put the gloves on. I never grab the tools. I don't want to stick my hands in cow poo. So I'm not going to use it. But those are the kinds of things you're supposed to do. If you have strawberries, existing strawberries outside that have been growing and you covered them up for the season, it says that now is probably the time to start removing about half of that mulch so that some sunlight can get in there and stuff. I haven't moved my strawberries or my blueberries out of the greenhouse yet. I'm scared to because I don't want them to die. And it scares me.
My
Yeah.
strawberries overwinter just fine, outside.
Okay, maybe I'll
And
put the big bucket outside.
They have little babies all around.
Maybe I'll put the big bucket outside of
It wasn't that cold in winter, so.
them. It really wasn't that cold in winter. Come on, change. You can do it. I have faith in you. There you go.
When do you start, if you have berry bushes? I was very ambitious last year, and I put a whole bunch of raspberry bushes in. I survived. And now they're starting to come up green, but I overwintered them, right? Is now when I start taking,
Yeah,
do I de-winterize them?
I think you start. But I say this because I'm just using online resources, and none of my online resources live here. Here is different from other places. I still expect us to get another good winter storm.
I couldn't even see like, hey, start doing it, like 6 weeks before the last frost.
But I like to let like leaves come out so they can see the sun fully. So maybe just like move a little bit out of the way if you want to.
I would actually go to Christopher's garden and ask them,
Yeah,
because they're very good at.
But they yelled at her last time.
I actually thought.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, because they grow wild here, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think they're fine up here, but
okay.
summer, I don't know when to start taking them out because of that, but they would know normal times.
Yeah.
Thank you.
These are just some of the resources I pulled from. I just like to put them up here in case anybody wants to look at them. That first video, the Casey Joy Lister, building a wicking bed, that was a very good video as far as showing things step by step. There's another video, the last link on here. No, not the last link. Maybe it's the one before it. There's one where it was posted to the Facebook group for the Vermaculture, and they were down in Phoenix talking to a worm guy in Phoenix. That was fascinating as heck to me. So if you're on the Concho Garden Club Facebook page, scroll back and look at some of the posts and find that last YouTube video that was posted. It's like a lady squatting down, holding some stuff with a garden behind her. It's an excellent video to watch if you're interested in putting worms directly into your garden. And we are going to talk about that today. Let me get this one to move over. There we go. All right, so the vermiculture thing is where we're going to start today. Because to me, again, it was just fascinating. You can do vermiculture, which is just adding worms to your garden. That's all it is like having a worm farm inside your garden. You can do it in raised beds, container gardens. You can do it in ground. If you do it in ground, one farm, like one container of worms, supposedly will help feed and aerate 100 square feet of garden, which I found fascinating because I don't see worms traveling through the clay that I have at my house. It's too hard. But that's what the guy in the valley said in that video, and I would assume he knows what he's talking about. It does help feed your garden. You can just take and put your hands in there and get out that worm castings to sprinkle around your garden as well. It's kind of contained in there. The worms will take care of themselves, so you don't have to worry about like in winter or whatever. They kind of take care of themselves. They'll lay eggs in there and stuff, and even if they die off in the winter, those eggs will stay there and they will hatch come next spring, so it will still be a viable worm farm. If you do them in like a standalone thing, like a little worm bucket that you keep away from your garden and you just feed them and keep them in that one area, that's also very helpful. I think it would be hard for me to keep them alive out here because I think they would require a little too much effort for my lazy behind. But it is an option that you have. But you can see right here in the picture, it's literally just a hole in the ground. You put your kitchen scraps in there, you cover it back up. It gets wet when you water your garden, so the soil stays moist, and they're going to decompose all of that and turn it into worm castings, which is excellent for the garden. Usually, if you want to start off small, you can do one bucket in one place. And then if you decide this is great, I want to do it in the next one, just take a handful of the worms out of there and throw them in another bucket somewhere else. They produce really quickly. They will not overproduce, like they self-regulate themselves as a colony or whatever. So they're not going to like overrun anything. My concerns with doing this right here is that we have a heavy rodent population. So you really have to be careful and make sure that you're not just attracting rodents directly into your garden beds with your basket full of kitchen scraps. So if I were covering it up, I would cover it up and probably put a rock on top, because you're not growing on that lid anyways. So put a rock on top, it'll help keep the rodents out a little bit, that type of thing. Where's my mouse? There it is. So if you want to do farm worms directly in your beds, you can use store-bought things like this. What I saw a lot of people online doing when I was researching is those wonderful $1.50 wire buckets from Dollar Tree.
That's what I use.
Stick that, dig a hole, put that in the ground, use that as your thing. They can go in and out through the little holes in the wire bucket and that type of thing. You want to make sure that you put scraps in there first, then put your worms in there, and then maybe put a little bit of soil or brown stuff on top. Like you could shred up cardboard, shred paper, something like that to put on top, like your browns if you're composting. That'll help keep the smell down, keep it covered. And then your worms will just do the rest. Once a week, throw about an inch worth of kitchen scraps in there and top it back off with some browns, cover it back up. And the worms just do all the work. If I were doing this in my totes, because I grow in plastic totes, I wouldn't probably do any of this, and I probably wouldn't even do the wire basket because it'd suck up 1/4 of my tote. So what I'm considering doing to try it is taking just some 1/4 inch hardwire cloth, because I have a bunch of that lying around, making myself a smaller basket that's maybe about this big around, to go all the way down to the bottom of my totes before I fill in the dirt. And then I'm going to try it with that, I think. And I'll probably try that. If you buy like the red wigglers or blue wigglers, which is what's recommended, from like a fishing supply store or anywhere, 1 tub should do all of my totes, because my totes aren't that big. If I were doing it in ground with one of the trash cans or something like this, I would just buy 1 cup, like I'm buying fishing bait, of some wigglers and throw those in there, the whole thing. But for my little totes, I'd probably do something shaped more like that and smaller.
Let me tell you, there's also people that just, you don't even need a container.
You can just throw worms in your garden.
Put a little trench in, put your kitchen scraps, throw it, and then just keep doing it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the next slide is actually, maybe it's the slide after that. I do actually talk about that. You can just, a lot of people will compost directly in their garden beds, not worry about anything like that. And they dig a trench down the middle of their bed that's about 8 to 10 inches deep. Put your garden scrap, your kitchen scraps or whatever in there, and cover that up, and just let the worms that are already there take care of it, and it, composts on its own. Because it's not just worms that are composting. There are lots of other things that are living in your soil that are going to feed on that as well. I am, again, for that part, afraid that I'm just going to attract more rodents. We don't need more. So I wouldn't personally do that. I might do that, though, as a winter, like after the season's over and I'm tearing down plants and there's some rotten fruit or whatever, just junk lying around. I might bury that inside my totes at the bottom and just let that decompose over the winter, and then it's fed that soil as it is. And I know that will work because I put all of my bedding from my chickens in last year, and I didn't age it or anything. I literally just cleaned out my coop and put it in the bottom of my bins before I put my soil in. All of that stuff was completely decomposed when I went this year. I dumped all of my beds before I started just to see what that process did.
Did you put your hands in it?
Yeah, because it wasn't chicken poop anymore. It decomposed. It was just dirt. It was just dirt. And my dinosaurs are clean animals. because they're my dinosaurs.
I think it's funny, you guys breaking up cow poop from last year.
But no, I use like rubber gloves when I clean my chicken coop too. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to die from some weird chicken poop disease after I've done all this other stuff to survive. These are all store-bought things. When I looked online, they ranged anywhere from like $15 to $40, depending on the size and the company you got them from. You can also order them from Walmart, Home Depot, or Lowe's. I've never seen them in any of those stores, but they are available online from them and can be delivered to a store.
The little trash baskets, the wire ones are perfect. The mesh wire with the little.
I think so too. What is this?
New pet
Let's
worms.
see if I can get over here.
Do you name
So these are how you feed your pet worms if you're going to do a vermiculture. The first step is to find some red or blue wigglers because those are the things that are most recommended to use as worms in Arizona. You have to name every single worm as you put them in. Welcome them to your garden. You know, take pleasure in this and just hold them and say thank you for your help and give them a name and put them in. You want to add about an inch of organic waste from your kitchen or garden. Don't use meat, dairy, or smelly sauces because that will attract other things that you don't want. Eggshells are good. Kitchen waste, coffee grounds are good. Trimmings from your garden, all of those things are good to feed them. After you put that in, add your new pets that you named and will remember all the names of.
All 1,000 of them.
All 1,000 of them.
A1, A2.
Right, exactly. And then top it off with an inch of brown, like shredded cardboard, shredded paper. We all get deliveries from Amazon and everything else out here, so we all have plenty of cardboard and stuff. Hi, welcome, come on in.
I'm from Pet Skin Library.
Oh, hi.
I'm just checking out the spot for tomorrow.
Oh, okay, no problem.
All right, I'll try to
Make sure everything stays moist. You don't want to dry your worms out. And then just feed it once a week. You just keep repeating and doing it over and over again, and then they will do the work that you want them to do. I think it's a great idea. I think it's very ambitious. I don't think it's something I can do personally because I just don't have the patience or the attention span to focus on worms. But I do think it'd be great. The other version was the trench composting, and here you can see a little picture of what somebody's doing in the middle of their garden bed.
Rabbits would be so happy.
Just dig a trench in your garden bed. I found things that said 8 to 10 inches and things that said 15 to 20 inches. You know, dig until your ancestors tell you to stop is what I would suggest. Put your kitchen scraps directly into it. Bury it to keep the mice and other things out. I don't think burying it's going to keep my mice out. My mice are very determined to destroy everything in my garden. You can do it either between your rows, like if you have lots of garden rows. There's a lady on YouTube, she lives in St. John's, 1,000,000 pumpkins or 1,000 pumpkins, it's one of the other. She grows in ground. And I was thinking of this when I was thinking of her when I saw this, because the way her garden is, it's in ground. It would be cool to do like in between the garden rows or whatever. But again, the last point on here is great for wintering your beds because it's going to take 2 to 3 months for that stuff to break down. So if you did it today, it's not going to feed your garden tomorrow.
Just real quick, is that HDMI that you're using?
Yes.
The cable? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's hanging right here, and it's the, when you go in here on the remote to use the input, it's just the first one.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. Sorry to do this.
No, you're fine. But again, that's your trench composting. It's not anything I'm ever going to try, I don't think. Because I just am not brave enough to think I can survive that. All right, this is my favorite part for today, making a self-wicking bucket. Now, I grow in tubs similar to this. So this is what I'm going to do for all of my new tubs. I have 5 tubs now. I'm going to get 5 more to fill out my outside garden. And I'm going to do this in all 5 of them because I really do think it would be a cool experiment to have my 5 without and my 5 with and see if it really makes a difference. But I always think in terms of science. This particular website that I took these photos from, they put black plastic over their garden to help hold all that moisture in, and then they poke holes in the plastic to grow. I don't think I'm going to bother with all of that. But this was very interesting and very good to use. The purpose of it is to have a reservoir at the bottom that holds water so that you don't have to water as often and your plants aren't going to suffer. I like this and can't wait to try it because I don't always want to have to be at my house every day. It'd be nice if I knew I could go away for a weekend and come back and everything's not going to be dead. I could run tubes and put a timer on and all that stuff, but if I could just do something like this, that's great. I also saw where people were doing this in their in-ground garden beds as they build their new beds. They trench out and they use a pond liner in the bottom to make their reservoir, and then they put like some rocks and stuff in there to kind of support your reservoir so that the soil doesn't just go down and smother the tube or whatever. And then they build their garden bed on top of it. I think that would be cool too, because you could do this for whatever length your garden bed is. I don't grow in the ground, so it's not a thing for me, but I found it to be very, very interesting. And they weren't that hard to make. The one that I made to give away today, and I made one for me as well at home, it's just the cost of PVC pipe and a couple of fittings. And you need a drill and you need a saw. My PVC cutters were not big enough for the 1.5 inch pipe. So I had to like sit there with a saw and saw it out. It didn't take that long. It wasn't that hard to do. Let's see. Does it go through? There we go. So the bottom layer holds the water, often with plastic pots or a pipe submerged to create the space. It says to use a wicking medium, such as some type of cloth or felt to separate, or you can use shade cloth. And I'm going to bring the one that I built over to show as an example as well. This is the one we're going to be giving away today. But for my material to go between the reservoir and the soil, I just used shade cloth from last year's shade cloth that I'm replacing. And it's really just something that's going to keep the dirt from going down and filling up the holes in the pipe. But you want it to be flexible enough to where your soil that you put on the top can dip down to where the water reservoir is so that it can wick up the water. You want to have an overflow hole, which I put right here, so that you don't overfill it and just fill the bucket full of water. You want to be able to let some drain out. So I put this about 3 inches from the bottom. That way I'll have like a 3-inch reservoir of water under here. And what I'm probably going to do, because I have a lot of irrigation tubing, is I'll probably attach tubing to this and run it into another pot so that when it overflows, I'm not wasting water and it's going into a smaller pot or something that's right underneath. That's just me. I took some lovely basalt rocks from my property because that's all my property is. And I put these in the bottom, and that's going to help support my reservoir down here. And then you have your fill tube. I have a cap on the top because I don't want things to just be evaporating. I also don't want mice to go down in here and die. I mean, they can die. Don't care about that. But I don't want them in my water. I drilled some holes in the side of the bottom tube. I chose not to drill holes in the top because I don't want the dirt to fall directly in. And I put a cap on the end because I don't want the water to just gush out the bottom right here. I want to give it like a soaking. And I'm hoping what happens, I haven't tested it, in my head this makes sense, is when I fill this up, water will sit from here all the way through here as my tube is full. And it'll just slowly pour out into my reservoir as, you know, the water starts getting wicked up. So it's going to give me, you know, this much water as well as what's in my reservoir. And then I'll just cap it off to keep everything out of it. Fill it up the next time I go to fill up. In the bucket, it works out pretty well. It's a good size. And this much water in it. This would be perfect for pepper plants, tomatoes, things like that, where you can just put one in. Anything that can grow in a 5-gallon bucket, this should be really good for. And it took me maybe 20 minutes to build it. And that's with me using a handsaw to cut everything. The bucket was like $4. I didn't buy the lid to go with it. The pipe, I bought one big, huge pipe. And I want to say the pipe itself was like $9 and something at Home Depot for the 1.5-inch pipe. I had them cut it in half at the store so that I could bring it home because it was 10 foot long. The elbows were $1.98 each, and the end caps were like $1.98 each. So it wasn't that expensive for this. So all of my pepper plants are going to be grown in 5-gallon buckets, and I think that's what I'm going to do with all of my 5-gallon buckets, is do one of these type of deals and just see how it works out for them. So that is how I built that one. Let's see what else it might say.
I think those are good in that the roots will grow deeper instead of staying shallow where you usually water.
Yeah. Well, last year, I think the reason my garden was not as prolific as I had hoped it would be, I mean, the plants grew. They just didn't produce enough fruit. And I think I was watering too often so that it was not a deep water. And I think that that was one of the problems, is that I wasn't giving them like deep, deep roots to soak up all that water and moisture and minerals from the soil. So I like the idea of this whole bottom watering thing. This right here is an example of an in-ground one, where they dug down and they used pebbles and things, and they have the pipe going along the bottom for their in-ground beds, but it is still the same premise. So if you're doing new beds, I don't know that this would be easy to do in an existing bed because you'd have to dig everything out and start it up. You build the reservoir using pond lining. Any size bed will work as long as you have a reservoir and a pipe long enough, like to reach your distance. Use a fabric that allows water through, but not soil particles, to be your wicking material in between the two. And it says you can use gravel or sand for your reservoir, like to fill up your pond liner. I did read several places where sand was not necessarily the best material to use, because sand does hold on to that moisture and doesn't let it wick up as easily as if you were using like gravel or something like that. I know they also have like those clay pebbles that a lot of people use in aquaponics. A lot of the places that I did research with this on use those type of clay pebbles, and it seemed to work very successfully for them. You can also, if you're doing this, you can add some like 100% cotton or natural rope into your reservoir and up through the soil, and that gives things with more shallow roots the ability to grow around those ropes, and it wicks up the water as well. So if you were doing something that was more of a root crop, like a beet or a radish or a carrot or something, having the strings come up every so often is easier for them to be able to collect that water. There we go. Let's see what the next slide is. I didn't print out notes this time. That's why I'm having to go through both. All right, so your supplies, like I was saying before, is a PVC pipe. I don't know that 1.5 inch was the recommended size. That's what I bought. If you're doing a 5-gallon bucket, I think a 1-inch pipe would have worked just fine. I think if all you have at home is 3/4 inch pipe that you have lying around, I think that would work too. For a 5-gallon bucket, I think the bigger you get in your container or your garden bed, I think that the 1.5 inch is good for like totes or maybe like a 3-foot by 2-foot garden bed kind of thing. But if you're gonna do like your 8-foot long, 4-foot wide in-ground garden bed, you need to go to the plumbing section of your Home Depot or Lowe's. They sell piping that already has holes in it for drains, and they have wider piping, and that would be better, I think, for an in-ground garden bed that's of a large size. But I think really, me just using the supply list that I found online, I would not have chosen 1.5 inch for 5-gallon buckets if I had put just 2 more seconds of thought in it.
Is there any discussion of if you have an existing bed, of just using the pipe itself and putting a hole down, putting the pipe in and just letting it go like
So
that?
it will water underground if you do that. I saw some setups similar to that. In an in-ground bed, I don't think that that's really productive. If it was a container of some sort, either one of those large container beds that has a bottom to it, then I think that would work because the water would spread out through the soil a little bit as it soaks. You just wouldn't have a reservoir there. It would be no different than if you had just deep watered that bed. I think the reservoir is the important factor for this as far as it being able to water for a long time. You do need rocks or gravel, something like that. I also saw if you don't want to use rocks or gravel and you don't want to use this pipe right here and an elbow, just one pipe, I saw people take like the lid from the Home Depot bucket and trim it so that it would fit down inside the bucket, trim the outside off, and drill holes directly in it, and then just sit it down on a couple of rocks to make your bottom, your base, your reservoir. And then they just stuck a pipe in it, and it just poured directly into the reservoir. I thought that would be too much work for me, so I didn't do it that way, but I did see where people did that, especially with like these types of buckets. They would take the top and trim it and cut it and do it that way. And then they would also cut a square in the middle of this particular lid, and they would use just like a Rubbermaid food storage thing, stick it in there and put some dirt and stuff in there and use that as their wicking surface. So it had like holes drilled in the side, water could soak up. I just felt that was too much work for me because I'm lazy. You want some shade cloth or some other type of water permeable cloth for wicking material. I have like that white stuff over my garden right now. It's just like a garden cover type thing. It's not water permeable. I can't water my garden through it. It repels the water. I don't know if it's because it's brand new or what, but it doesn't let me, like I can't water, I have to remove it. So that would not be a good thing. This works because it has holes in it. I doubled it up because I didn't want the dirt to go through it. And so for me, this is like, even though it's a plastic, you can feel it's plastic, it allows that water to go through in those holes. And then a drill with various bits. My husband let me use the drill. He trusted me for this one project. Now, and you see in this bucket, they put holes all around that pipe. I don't think it matters. I still wouldn't want holes in the top part because I just feel like that's inviting dirt to fall in and clog up your little water pipe. Because some dirt will go through even this.
I read somewhere where there's, you have a space for air in there.
Oops. I think I just closed out the presentation, so give me a second.
So when you didn't put holes in the top, that's a good thing because you have some air space.
Yeah. I mean, I think the premise for this is amazing. And I really do expect it to do very well. I don't think I would ever do it in an in-ground thing because that would require too much effort on my part. And I truly do believe nature will do what nature wants to do with or without our help. I don't think we should have to put a ton of effort into growing stuff. If it becomes a chore for me, I won't do it anymore just because I won't enjoy it. And right now, I find joy in it. Let me see if I can get this started back up and get us back to where we were. But for all of my little pots like that I'm putting out, I think it'd be great. My other part of my garden is going to be trying to reuse those cloth growing bags that I had bought before. And I'm going to take the lids from my existing totes and make those the reservoirs underneath my grow bags to see if those will work. Because the last time I tried to use cloth grow bags, I just had them sitting on the ground and I could not keep the dirt moist. So I'm hoping if I sit them on the lids of my totes, because I'm not using those for anything else, that maybe that will help with that. All right. The step-by-step instructions for building this, and again, it took me 20 minutes to build it. You cut your pipes or tubes. I had to recut this one like 3 times because it was too wide to go in here and have the fixtures on it. But cut your tubes to the proper size. You want it to stick up above your pipe, above your bucket, so that it's easy for you to pour water into, that's all. Drill your holes in the tube that's going to lay across the bottom. And I didn't use, don't ask me what size drill bits I use, I'm a girl. But I drilled about 5 on each side. I didn't drill any in the bottom, I didn't drill any in the top. It's water, it's going to flow through. Water does that. I used an elbow piece here to connect these two together. And then you add your support pieces for your reservoir. I picked 4 rocks just because that's what I have lying around. You can also do things like, I eat Chobani yogurt, and they have really sturdy yogurt cups. Would have been perfect to go in here. I just happened to be throwing all of my yogurt cups away because I didn't think ahead. But those would have been a perfect size for this particular thing. You could also use, like if you buy coffee grounds in like the plastic round containers, you can cut those in half and use 2 halves of that, and that would work just fine. If you put something plastic in here, drill holes in the side, and that way water can fill that space as well, and that just gives you more water in your reservoir. If you're using gravel or rocks, make sure the bin doesn't get too heavy so that you can move it around. Especially if you're using something like the 5-gallon buckets or totes like that were up here. You don't want it to be so heavy you can't move it. Now, I personally, my totes are already too heavy for me to move by myself because they're full of dirt. So I have to make my husband come out and help me. That's his job. Add your cloth over the reservoir. Make sure that some portions are lower than others. You want it to dip down into where the reservoir is going to be, so that that water can move up in there. You're really just putting the cloth on there more to block the dirt from getting down into your reservoir and filling your reservoir up. Add pre-moistened soil. When you go to fill your soil up in here, you want it to already be wet, because if it's dry, it's going to be more hydrophobic, and it will take longer for it to wick all the way up. And you don't want your plants to die while the soil is trying to figure out its emotional status. Fill your reservoir and watch all your plants grow. And that should be how it goes. And then you shouldn't have to do this, but maybe once a week. That's the plan, and that's what they say online. I will try it and see. That is all of my stuff for this week. We are going to have a drawing for this wicking basket that's already made. And then one of our Mellon Center friends, Gail, gave me this. It was brand new. I unwrapped it because I didn't know what it was. And I wanted to see what it was. It is a growing container for you that you can like do sprouts or seeds or something in. It has holes in the bottom and a reservoir down here for this. And then it has a little tray right here as well. So this is also in for the drawing to use for starting seeds, or possibly I even think it would be really good if you were doing like sprouts, if you like to eat bean sprouts and stuff like that. I think this would be an excellent way to do that. I kind of like that. So we're going to do a drawing for that. If you don't already have your name in for the drawings and you want to, go ahead and put your names over there. Next month's meeting, we're going to talk about companion planting. Planting to support plants around it, planting to help prevent pests, plants that attract pests that you might want to plant just a little off to the side. So that's what we're going to be talking about at the next meeting. And then, of course, here's all of my contact information if anybody wants to contact us. I do want to say I'm very excited. Our Facebook page has grown. We have about 25 more followers than we did at the beginning of this season, which is really great. We've been getting lots of views from the Facebook Live videos, which I think is awesome. But we've also, this year, I've been downloading the videos from Facebook Live and then uploading them to my YouTube channel, just so we don't lose them. Facebook deletes all the videos after 30 days. And this is also from my research and from my knowledge. So I've been putting them on my Facebook page. And we've been getting an average of 15 to 25 views on Facebook as well. So I think that's pretty cool because that means that our garden club is reaching people. And I'm hoping they're learning stuff from it. And they leave lots of comments to tell me when I'm wrong, which is awesome because it'll save my garden. So I appreciate everybody coming. I'm going to end the Facebook Live because we're going to get ready to do just our stuff. I just have to figure out how to find my Facebook Live again. There it is. And I will end that.